A man runs down a desolate street alone on a bitterly cold night. The circus that came into this town a few days ago has completely captivated the attention of the townspeople who have nothing better to do in their bleak lives. The performance that the circus promised to them, the prince, was cancelled. All that promise and build up for nothing. And now the townspeople have lost their patience, and they will make ruin of everything. Werckmeister Harmonies was released in 2000 and directed by Bela Tarr and his wife Agnes Srnatsky, who also edited the film. Bela Tarr is considered by many, including French film critic Michel Ciment, as a leading example of what he calls a cinema of slowness. He recognizes a group of filmmakers who have reacted to the ever fast-paced attention-starved films of Hollywood, where the audience is bombarded by sound and image, by instead creating films as if they wanted to live again in the sensuous experience of a moment revealed in its authenticity. Directors who want to feel the passing of time and allow the audience to be immersed in the atmosphere, and revealing the authenticity by letting the shot linger to attempt to capture the reality of life, or at least the director's interpretation of reality. Slow cinema is a unique film style, as it has only recently gained unprecedented critical valence in the last decade. Films from as early as the turn of the century could be classed as slow cinema, as De Luca and Jorge argue that slow cinema is an unstructured film movement made up of disparate films and practices that are conceptualized as a grouping thanks to their comparable style. These practices Matthew Flanagan defines as the employment of often extremely long takes, decentered and understated modes of storytelling, and a pronounced emphasis on quietude and the everyday. Werckmeister Harmonies encapsulates all these elements that define slow cinema, with one of Bela Tarr's hallmark shots of a character walking in silence for minutes at a time being a quintessential recurring shot in his films and all slow cinema. If these are the characteristics that define slow cinema, then where did they come from? How has the historical context of slow cinema influenced the techniques that define this style of film? Not every filmmaker is the same, and slow cinema is a broad style. Therefore, I will focus on the historical reasons behind one director's way of filmmaking, that being Bela Tarr, in relation to Werckmeister Harmonies. I will discuss how this style came to be, what techniques he utilizes, and how they fit into the broad style of slow cinema. Bela Tarr was born in 1955 and in his early adulthood grew up in communist Hungary, an authoritarian regime that would often ban or censor media that went against the ideology and control of the state. Although not wanting to become a filmmaker, at 16 he created an amateur 8mm film about gypsy workers that landed him in trouble with the state. Another time he wanted to record an eviction of a squatter family but was arrested. His first feature film, Family Nest, 1979, details a family and their struggling relationship with one another. All these films and his subsequent projects have a related theme and focus on the observation of the daily lives of regular people. In Werckmeister Harmonies, we the audience observe the protagonist János, who himself is an observer to the breakdown of society around him. Kaglayan calls this character a flaneur, a subject that strolls and observes reality, much in the same way that Tarr's character and cameras do. This figure of a flaneur is further strengthened by the techniques Tarr utilizes in Werckmeister Harmonies. The average shot length in this film is almost 4 minutes, with only 39 shots over its 149-minute runtime, many of which are János walking in silence as the camera follows him. This shot is 78 seconds. This one, 83. And this one is 154 seconds of almost silent walking. The use of these long takes and temps mort, or dead time, which Kaglayan also mentions, wherein a shot very little related to the narrative occurs, transforms not only the audience but the protagonist into a flaneur. They simply observe what happens around them with no interruptions of a cut. János in no way influences what happens. This ties back to Bela Tarr's amateur films that documented people's lives under communist Hungary. Instead of trying to craft dramatic narratives, he became interested in how these people's lives were impacted and influenced by the world around them, just as can be seen with János in Werckmeister Harmonies. When discussing the use of long takes in an interview with Eric Schlosser, Bela Tarr states, "I like the continuity, because you have a special tension. Everybody is much more concentrated than when you have these short takes, and I like very much to build things, to conceive the scenes, how we can turn around somebody, all the movements implied in these shots. It's like a play, and how we can tell something about life, because it's very important to make the films a real psychological process." The real psychological process being the observation of the characters, the long take forces the audience to pay attention and interpret a lot of what they see. This utilization of the long take is what makes slow cinema and Werckmeister Harmonies stand out, as Kaglayan argues that slow cinema is a form of contemporary art cinema that opposes the dominant mainstream modes of storytelling. Bela Tarr himself is seemingly not a fan of critics and audiences alike trying to find meaning within his works. In an interview after Werckmeister Harmonies was shown at the Cork Film Festival, Fergus Daly and Maximilian Lacane asked if he likes that critics describe his film as metaphysical. Tarr responds, No, I never think about theoretical things when we are working. I just wanted to make a movie about this guy who is walking up and down the village and has seen this whale. This quote reflects Tarr's observational tendencies within his work. In the same interview, when asked about his interpretation of the Prince character, Tarr responds, I don't know. I haven't seen him. I've only seen his shadow. That's all. What you two have seen. The same. I don't like to explain anything about the story. You have seen it half an hour ago. Tarr talks as if he too, the director of the film, was also an observer of the story that he crafted. That he allowed the audience to witness a flaneur of his world so that they could observe, interpret, and come to their own answers about his film. Another way in which he achieves this is his cinematography, and the artistic choice of black and white. Bela Tarr experienced the fall of communism in Hungary, a time that brought about much chaos, confusion, and difficulty for many people. Werckmeister Harmonies depicts, as artistic director of the New York Film Festival Dennis Lim states, the Middle European gloom and the weather-beaten wastelands of Hungary. Lim uses chiaroscuro, an Italian term meaning light, dark, to describe the film. This choice encourages the audience to focus on the texture and feel of the film. How cold it is, how the town is slowly decaying, and how exhausted and ghostly the townspeople look and feel. Bela Tarr states that with black and white, you can keep it stylistic. You can keep it more of a distance between the film and reality, which is important. Keeping it black and white allows him to create the correct mood and aesthetic that he wants to communicate. It strips the image down to its necessary visual elements for observation. Slow cinema is a style with filmmakers experimenting with conventional storytelling. The social and political environment Bela Tarr experienced, and his interest in observing the lives of ordinary people, shaped his filmmaking to be visually striking and narratively ambiguous. Werckmeister Harmonies manifests this through long takes, dead time, and black and white cinematography. These techniques slow the pace of the film and encourage the audience to observe and experience the world alongside its characters. This film demonstrates how a filmmaker's historical context can shape the techniques that define slow cinema.